to our daily Bible study. I am your host, Dr. Derek A. Reeves, and today we're going to continue on in the series, Understanding Fear. Today's lesson will be terms for fear. This is the third installment, but part 2 of the terms of fear. And I thank you for your patience. We have had some technical difficulties the last several days, but we will continue to get these lessons out for you. And so let's go. Remember, these are definitive lessons, and so we're going to study terminologies and terms specifically taken from the Old Testament and the New Testament that will help us to understand fear. And so the first term we're going to deal with today is the term that we can find called Guwr. And so the term Guwr, again, means to sojourn, to abide, dwell in a place, and remain in a place. And what it specifically is addressing is the fact that where one is abiding, they are a sojourner or a stranger. And so they're seeking hospitality, and they have a desire to assemble themselves. But because there is not a conformable state where they belong to a place, but they are strangers, in many cases that would stir up trouble and strife simply because a person was considered to be a foreigner. And so when we look at the ancient Hebrew, and we begin to look at the pictographs or the letters, which were pictographs in the beginning, the indication of these pictographs is, number one, there is a picture of a foot that means to walk, and then there is a picture of a man. Combine these, it deals with a walking man, or one traveling through a foreign land who is a stranger to the people and the culture. And so fear here is associated with strangers and seen as an enemy. This root also has the ideal of laying out flat to sleep, through an ideal of spending the night and to hear a growl, a sound from the throat, or one who is incapacitated but in some sense must hide in the strange land to sleep, and the growl indicates unrest. And so if we were to go on a little further, the term ghoul, and again, it's not talking about a ghoul who eats people, it should be Guwr, and it means properly to turn aside from the road for a lodging. And so it's seeking security in a strange, unfamiliar place. It deals with to sojourn as a guest, to shrink in fear as in a strange, again, unfamiliar place. And so this terminology for fear deals with being in a place of unfamiliarity, being in a place where you have no expectation because you don't know what is in that place. And so it is the fear of the unknown, the fear of having to address something that you have no reference point about, having a fear where you have no past history of something and no past indicators of how to navigate through a situation. And so Guwr is the terminology that will deal with fear of the unknown, or fear of unknown places, unknown situations, unknown feelings, unknown people, and unknown even spiritual situations. And so we want to go a little further, excuse me, and there's much to unpack because there's so many terms for fear. And so we want to move to the next term, which is also a term that can be found in the Old Testament. And so it is the Hebrew word that is known as the word DeAgah. And this type of fear is an anxiety. It is carefulness or a fear of heaviness and sorrow. When we look at the ancient Greek terminology for this, again you see several pictographs that make up the Hebrew terms. And one is a dart and the other is a fish. And so it deals with an anxiety. The pictograph in this picture deals with a tent door, which is a curtain hung over to an entrance of the tent. To gain entrance to the tent or to leave, the curtain must be moved forward or backwards. And this illustration brings us to the fish's tail that is flapping or moving. And so when we talk about the representation of the two letters, again, it is the fish and the tail that is agitated or wagging through the water. And what it literally deals with, the back and forth darting of a fish in the water, the anxiousness of the fish in the water is either because the fish feels threatened, endangered, or the fish is trying to survive and to eat what it normally eats to keep itself safe, to keep itself alive, and to keep itself active. And so there is fear, there is sorrow, there is careful, and there is taking of very, very stringent thought in order to perceive and to achieve the knowledge to operate within any given specific arena. And so when we continue to look at this term, it's very interesting because DeAgah simply means anxiety, anxiousness, or a care, caring for something that may be very dangerous, that may be very heavy. And so it deals with carefulness or anxiety. There is an agitation that something has to be done. And then there is heaviness or sorrow. And when we take it a little further and we begin to look at it, it's a noun that refers to apprehension because of approaching trouble. And so if we go back to the fish with the tail wagging, he's trying to get away because perhaps he senses through the vibrations in the water the natural enemy that causes him to be a prey. And so it is the fear and anxiety that something that is a predator or that is predatorial is coming to you to harm you. And so it deals with, again, the anxiety over lost terrain. Could be lost relationships, could be a lost loved one, could even be the loss of a familiar situation, loss of health, sometimes a loss of food and wages. And so it is an apprehension that individual experience that sometimes anesthetizes them to keep them from moving forward. And so there's so much in this that we have to unpack, but because there's so many terms for fear, we can only hit it just a little, just to bring out the pertinent points. And perhaps one day I will do a text on this, but I am out of time today. I thank you for joining us. This has been our daily Bible study, and this is Series 8, Understanding Fear, and I am your host, Dr. Derek A. Reeves. God bless you.